Twitter is what happens when a bunch of people who have never been through anything feel the need to speak on behalf of people who will like they have. Yeah. So it's called, I think there's a term for that. It's called white savior complex. Yeah, white savior complex. It's when a bunch of Americans or a bunch of white people try to claim that they're protecting or saving other people because, you know, they're helpless or something along those lines. It's and you know, the implication of that is that basically you feel like you're so superior that you want to help other people. It's condescending. Yeah. And they're not necessarily doing it because they genuinely do want to help people. They're doing it because they want to satisfy their own ego. They're doing it because they want people to think that they're a good person. They want their peers to think they're a good person. That's pretty much it. They just want to feel good, exactly. And I hate these sorts of people because they're everywhere on Twitter. They're everywhere on Twitter. Fucking weirdos, dude. Absolute fucking weirdos. And I don't like talking about this stuff too because it feels like I'm politically... what's that thing where you talk about politics and like you should talk one side of the political spectrum or whatever? It's like, I guess most people call it grifting. That's not my intention, right? But I feel like I'm doing that whenever I speak my opinions regarding this matter. Whenever shit like this happens in the VTuber industry or in any VTuber or in any industry that I happen to be passionate about or like, and then it's just a bunch of people, a bunch of tourists that don't actually know the culture speak for the people that were already there without them actually asking for it. I hate it. Playing the White Knight, yeah, I hate it when VTuber fans do it. It's not just VTuber fans, it's everyone. Especially in Twitter. And I don't like saying this out loud too, because a lot of people are gonna think that I'm like some sort of fucking like Asmon Gold type of content creator where like I'm right-leaning and I like, you know, I support the narrative Donald Trump, Elon Musk, these anti-DEI shit. Like, no, bro. I mean, I don't like DEI, but it's like not necessarily that I'm like that. I just don't like tourists. And this includes tourists and people that get into this culture and talk about shit that they don't know anything about. I don't like the behavior. It's just that, you know, it's on the farther side of both spectrums that these behaviors are exemplified. You're not even American. True. True. Because, chat, I see accusations like that on Twitter as well. Like, some people genuinely thinking that I'm, like, whatchamacallit? Like, I'm also a right-leaning guy. But just because some of my peers, or like some of the people that I follow, or the same sort of people that are adjacent to my content creating brand, is like right-leaning, then I must be as well. It's crazy. The one accusation that I saw actually that pissed me off is people thinking that, like, you know, so the post, I don't recall exactly the details of the post, but it's a post shit-talking Hirohei about how he's become a political grifter. And then in the comments, somebody mentioned Depressed Nusagi and Rima Evenstar also being like right-wing grifters. Like, what? What the fuck? How? Like, how did Rima and I get into that conversation? It's so cringe. Yeah. Who we leaning on? I'm not American, right? So I don't actually know. I don't have an opinion about that sort of topic. In general, I have principles, and my principles are like stuff like leave people alone if they're not harming anybody, let people be who they wanna be, blah 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 blah. And like a lot of these principles fall down slightly towards the left-leaning part. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm like a left-winger, right? But it's just that the things that I do, the things that I believe in, and I personally believe in, they more so lean towards the left-leaning side. But I do agree on some of the narratives that the right mostly talk about. Like, for example, the anti-DEI shit. Like that, of course, that I 100% agree with, right? Like, I don't like diversity for the sake of diversity's sake, whatever. I don't necessarily like representation. I feel like representation only matters if it's like there's genuineness to it. If it's some person that don't... I think representation really only matters if the person making it doesn't want to shove the entire culture into somebody's face. I feel like representation is done best when it's done subtlety. And subtlety is far from the things that are happening right now. That's what I think. Moderate left. This is why I think I'm a centrist, by the way. Like I agree on both because I agree on both narratives in both spectrums. But because I'm not American, I don't follow that politics. I'm not like maybe brainwashed is the wrong word, but like I cannot follow or do not worship the people associated with those with the figures and the people associated with those beliefs. Right? Like just because, you know, I believe in that doesn't necessarily mean I agree with everything, say, I don't know, Trump or Osmond Gold says or whatever. I don't necessarily believe in that. If diversity is a byproduct, then it is good. Byproducts can be good and bad, I would like to think. Like, it's neutral. If you go to both extremes, you basically go for a circle. Yeah, I feel like if you're a far right-winger or you're a far left-winger, any slight opposition to your belief makes everybody the opposite side. Like, for example, if I was a far leftist, right? If I was a far leftist and I have these very, very far left-leaning beliefs, and there's another leftist that says something that's all, again, 100% a leftist, right? But he concedes to some of the arguments made by the right or even disagrees with the far left arguments or narratives that I hold, I'm gonna immediately start thinking that guy is probably a Nazi and he's like infiltrating our sphere or something. And I think that's the problem with any far leftist or far right winger. Why do you call it a rightist? What the fuck do you call that side then? What I'm trying to say is that any deviations, if you're like far in any political spectrums, you immediately will assume that you're on the other side. Rightards, okay, so left libtards and rightards. That's so that way, like they're, you know, we're even. Isn't that like for most people? Oh yeah, no, 100%. That's, I wanted to get into that, all geared. Thank you. Yeah, that is most people. Unfortunately, most people are not on Twitter. So because most people are not on Twitter or in any of these fucking forums and that scream into the void, begging for internet affection and for people to think that they're a good person, most people, the narratives and the shoutings and the fucking whatever that are being perpetuated on these platforms, people are gonna start thinking that's the majority. People are gonna start thinking that's the thing, that's the popular thing that everybody's saying right now. So I have to agree with it because I don't want to get lambasted, you know that. But I would like to think most normal people are like that, are centrists. I feel like this is the problem with, I feel like that's definitely one of the problems the internet made. It severed, or what's the term there? It made it worse, this divide between both political spectrums and people. It made it worse, even though it shouldn't be worse. Like, I feel like I would like to think that most people were smarter back then. Most people were actually more willing to engage in conversation back then. Of course, I don't necessarily know that's true because I've never been, you know, I would like to think I'm adept at history, but I don't know a lot of, like, the political side of it. It's the loud people that count. Oh, it's all, yeah, the loud people, yeah. Yeah, it's always the loud people. I don't know how we devolved into that sort of conversation, but we did. Anyway, yeah. Let's stop talking about this. Yep.